Every night, without exception, something extraordinary happens to you that would have killed your ancestors. You lie down, your muscles slacken, your eyes seal shut, and for roughly a third of your life, you become one of the most defenseless animals on Earth, blind, immobile, and deaf to almost everything around you. No claws, no armor, no escape. Just stillness, in the dark, for hours at a time. For decades, the explanation seemed obvious: fire. Humans tamed the flame, and the flame kept the monsters back. It's a tidy story, and it isn't wrong, but it isn't the whole story either. Fire helped. It wasn't the whole reason. Deep in the fossil record, and in the sleeping patterns of the last people on Earth who still live the way our ancestors did, there's evidence of something else, something stranger, older, and far more overlooked, that was protecting sleeping humans just as much as any flame. The most important defense wasn't the fire itself. It was the people sleeping around it. It is a strange trade humanity made a very long time ago, and almost no other primate made it the same way. Most of our relatives sleep in trees, wedged into branches, out of reach of anything with teeth. We came down, we lay flat on open ground, in caves, beside dying fires, and we surrendered consciousness completely, night after night for millions of years. The question that should nag at anyone who thinks about it seriously is simple. How did a slow, clawless, nearly blind-in-the-dark primate survive doing that? And what did it actually cost us to figure it out? Picture the African savanna at dusk, 60,000 years ago. The heat lifts off the grass. Somewhere out past the firelight, something is moving. You can hear it but not see it. This is the world your ancestors slept in every single night for the entire span of human prehistory. No walls, no locks, no electric light to push back the dark. Lions, hyenas, leopards, all more numerous, more confident, and far more nocturnal than they are today. And yet humans didn't retreat to cliffs or treetops the way chimpanzees and gorillas still do. We slept on the ground, in groups, exposed. It shouldn't have worked. For a defenseless, mostly diurnal primate to lie down together in open country and simply stop paying attention to the world, night after night, for a third of every single day, looks, on paper, like a slow-motion evolutionary catastrophe. The fossil record confirms the danger was real. At a site in South Africa, the skull of a young hominin, the famous Taung child, dated to roughly 2.5 million years ago, bears puncture marks that closely match the talons of a large eagle, the kind of bird still known to prey on primates today. Elsewhere, the bones of early Homo turn up gnawed and scattered among the discarded prey of ancient carnivores, mixed in with antelope and zebra, remains in the same feeding sites. Our ancestors weren't simply hunters. For a long stretch of our evolutionary history, we were also, quite regularly, food. So how did a species this vulnerable survive the one activity that made it most vulnerable of all? Fire mattered enormously. Evidence from sites such as Wonderwork Cave suggests hominins were controlling flame hundreds of thousands of years before our own species even existed, and a burning camp genuinely deterred predators. But fire has limits. It goes out. It burns low toward dawn, exactly when many predators hunt. And it doesn't explain how humans survived the hundreds of thousands of years before anyone controlled it at all. Something else had to be doing at least as much work. Something happening not in the flames, but inside the group itself. In the mid-2010s, the anthropologist David Sampson and colleagues fitted modern hunter-gatherers, the Hadza of Tanzania, one of the last populations still living by foraging much as humans did for most of our history, with wrist monitors that tracked their sleep through the night. The assumption going in was that the whole camp would drift off together and wake together, more or less as one. What the data showed instead was stranger. At almost no point during the night was the entire group actually asleep. Someone somewhere in the camp was awake nearly all the time, not standing formal guard, not assigned to a watch, but simply out of sync, drifting in and out of sleep on their own private rhythm. Older members of the group tended to wake earlier and sleep less, younger members later. Layered together, their overlapping sleep and waking cycles meant the camp, as a whole, was almost never fully unconscious. That is the twist worth sitting with. We assume the danger of sleep was solved mainly by fire, by staying awake longer, building better walls, keeping brighter flames. But fire was only ever one layer of the defense. Alongside it, without anyone planning it, human bodies were falling out of step with one another just enough that the group, collectively, almost never went dark. Vigilance wasn't a job someone volunteered for. It was a side effect of being a mixed-age, mixed-energy group of individuals sleeping side by side. The predators weren't kept out by flame alone. They were kept out by the sheer improbability of catching an entire camp unconscious at once. But biology alone doesn't explain everything people did in the dark. Across cultures with no contact with one another, in medieval Europe, in West Africa, in Newfoundland fishing villages, in Japan, people independently described the same terrifying experience, waking in the night unable to move, certain that something malevolent was sitting on their chest. Europeans called it the night hag. Newfoundlanders called it the old hag. The affliction has a real, well-understood neurological cause today: sleep paralysis, a brief and harmless misfire between the brain and body as REM sleep ends before muscle control fully returns. But to someone without that explanation, in genuine darkness, with genuine predators still a living memory, the sensation of an invisible weight and a malevolent presence was not irrational. It was a reasonable interpretation of a real, frightening, and universal human experience, and it tells us something the fossils can't: that the fear of sleep wasn't only about teeth in the dark. It was also about what the sleeping mind does to itself. Layer these threads together, and the picture widens considerably. The fear of falling asleep wasn't superstition bolted onto survival. It was survival's residue still humming in the nervous system long after the lions had mostly gone. It shaped where we chose to camp, who we trusted